I never said that.
Okay. So we'd like to welcome everyone to the Fruit Heights City Planning Commission meeting today, October 22nd, 2024. It's 7:02. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance by Shelley, opening ceremony by myself, and then roll call by Haley.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the chance to meet together tonight as a planning commission and as members of the city to discuss issues that are presented to us this evening. We're grateful to live in a community of good neighbors. We'd ask that would help us to make good decisions tonight, to have good discussions, and to treat each other with respect and kindness. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Commissioner Shelley Ball. Present. Commissioner Clark Moss.
Here.
Commissioner Heidi Murdoch. Commissioner Justin Ryan.
Here.
Chairman Kevin Polson. Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Okay. So we will move on to public comments this evening. So if anybody would like to address the planning commission, you're welcome to. We just ask that you keep your comments brief. But you're welcome to stand if anybody would like to make comments tonight.
And this is just, this isn't for the public hearing. So this is just, if there's any comments that will be made, it's for that. The public hearing, if that's what you're here for, then that's.
You wait till the public hearing.
Yeah, so wait till the public hearing, if that's what you're here.
So anything other than pool? Is what you're saying?
Cool, yeah, pretty much anything on that.
So,
This isn't the public hearing?
It's not that portion of the meeting.
it's public comment.
Yeah.
That's a public comment.
Yeah. Yeah, anything. Okay, doesn't look like we have any public comments. Any presentations this evening? No? Okay. We are reviewing the planning commission minutes from the September 24th, 2024 meeting. I was not at that meeting, so I reviewed the minutes, but I don't have any comments on them.
I have one comment. At the first, it said, 2 people were,
I maybe fix that one.
oh, okay, she got it, good. It was singular, not plural, right, so, okay, we're good. I think everything else looks pretty good.
Okay, we'll look for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
And I'll second that motion.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to our public hearing on the swimming pool ordinance. Anyone that would like to address the planning commission is welcome to.
make a motion to enter into the public hearing.
Thank you.
I also motion.
Second motion.
And, yeah, we all agree. Okay, so moving to the planning, into the public hearing to discuss, Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 13, swimming pools ordinance, setbacks.
Once again.
Okay. Anybody would like to present and discuss?
So I'm Tyler White, I live at 1 South of Route Way.
Tyler, could you push the little button just right up front?
Oh, this one? Yeah, there you go. Okay, Tyler White, 134, or 194 South of Woodway. I have spoken to the planning commission and the city council about modifying the pool ordinance from an 8-foot setback to allow a 5-foot setback. That's what would better serve, I think, the citizens of Fruit Heights and also mine in my backyard, so that it doesn't create unusable spaces in my backyard and in anybody's backyard. I know that there have been 2 other residents in the city who have asked for adjustments to the planning or to the pool ordinance this year. So it's not just me that's asking, it's not just me that it doesn't work for. The first resident was able to get an 8-foot ordinance passed, and the next resident needed 5. I wanted to advocate for 3, but the city council didn't seem like they were very favorable in passing an ordinance that was reduced to 3 feet. But I think 5 is what is probably most likely to be passable, and so that's what I'm here in support of, and hope the planning commission does that. A narrow setback would not cause me to have to try to adjust my boundary to make a 3-foot setback work or a 5-foot setback or 8-foot setback work, which is something that if that didn't happen, I may have approached the neighbors about that, but I hadn't yet, and they're here tonight. So I think that the 5-foot is something that's passable, and I think it serves the best interest of the city. And thank you for your time and your consideration and all this. I appreciate it.
Any other,
My name is Jack Kite, and I live at 1495 or 1379 East Bay Road in Fruit Heights. I'm Tyler's neighbor. There's a couple of issues that I want to bring up. I hope me and my wife have sent y'all a letter. I hope you had a chance to look at that. Some of our views on ordinance changes and this particular piece of property. I know it's going to affect the whole city, but this is going to affect us as his neighbors. So one thing I'd like you to keep in mind too when you're doing this is Mr. White's property, his backyard doesn't abut my backyard. It's my front yard that it affects. Also, I attended the meeting in April, the chicken meeting. I don't know if I know where that meeting, but anyway, you folks over here stood up and said, hey, we're going to put this pool issue to bed. We don't think we need to raise the issue every time somebody brings it up. We leave it at 8 feet, and we don't want to keep addressing that. So I figured, okay, well, let's put to bed. We're not going to hear any more about it. I knew you was going to come into the city because we did have that small conversation that you were guys trying to approach the city. So anyway, here we go again. We're here, and it really irritates me that I'm here again, putting me against my neighbor. I've been trying to be good neighbors. I know he's trying to be a good neighbor. Here we are arguing back and forth for something that I feel shouldn't be discussed again. If this would have been put to bed when Mr. White comes to you and said, hey, I want a 3-foot or I want a 5-foot, you say, no, this is the ordinance. This is the way it is, live with it. And it should have been put to bed then. I think that's my feeling. The other issue is, are we as residents to feel like that when the planning commission and the city council approve an ordinance, that it's temporary until somebody challenges it? Or is it going to be addressed every year and say, hey, let's change it for this guy or change it for that guy? I agree there are some situations that it needs to be changed for the betterment, but I don't feel like this is one of them. Mr. White knew when he built that home on that lot, the Greens, when they developed that Green Farm Estates, all the declarations and citadels or whatever were all there, telling him exactly what the setbacks was. He had an opportunity to build a smaller home, there was covenants in there that would let him do that, to accommodate a swimming pool, so he knew full well what he had when he built that house there. Now, and we as residents, those covenants was put in place to protect the existing residents when that subdivision was built. The city council approved those, so we felt good about it, approved the subdivision. So we thought, okay, this is the way it's gonna be. Well, now here we are again. So anyway, I don't think it should be changed. I feel like, I don't know why they got changed from 10 to 8. They were at 10 and then they went to 8. Now we're looking at 3, 5. If he put it for 3, why are we looking at 5? Why don't we keep it at 8? There's some other issues with that property down there. I think we've addressed it in the letter. I'm not gonna bring it up now, I just feel like that the noise, the lighting, all over, that's our front yard. We have the right to enjoy our property as well as what they do. And he knew full well that was when he built his home. So hopefully he'll take all of our recommendations and I guess grievances or whatever into consideration. We go forward with this. So thank you for listening to us. I didn't say no.
You can speak again to the camera. So, when I moved in, the ordinance was 6 for pools.
No, it wasn't. It's okay. Go ahead.
But to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, is that true or is that not?
Well, say that again,
Was the setback 6 for pools in 2017?
6 foot? Well, it's never been that.
Oh, it hasn't.
It wasn't 5 foot at one time. Before it was 10, it was 5.
So do we know when that?
Went from 5 to 10 to 8.
I thought the change to 10 was in 2022, is that correct?
Darren?
I believe it was.
And it changed to 10 from what, Darren?
I would say, I want to say that there was 1.7. I don't know what changed it. I will tell you that planning commission, was you on it, Justin?
I was not, no.
I think Kevin was the only one, and he had really good history of it.
I thought we went from 5 to 10 to 8.
I think it was 7.
My
Was it ever 5?
I don't think it was 5. I think it was 7, because I've talked to Brandon about it. I believe it was 7, and there just became a lot of issues with hillsides and slopes and all those kind of things, and then it changed to 10.
So when I moved in, it was not 10. At least we can say that. And it was less than 10 when I moved. So, I believe that, just like you do, that ordinance was changed in 2022 because someone had an issue with 7 feet or 6 feet or whatever it was back then. So this is the same condition. So the question is whether or not the ordinance is changed for the betterment of everybody or the betterment of 50. And I do believe that a setback of 5 feet is the betterment of all. It creates adverse planning in, say, my backyard. I don't believe the 5 foot setback would be any better for light or noise than an 8 foot setback. To your point. But I am completely willing, if the council or the commission feels that 8 foot is appropriate. I've said my piece, I've tried to work through the administrative avenues to comment and create an ordinance I think is for the betterment of the city and for all properties in the city. I've stated my reasons why. But I don't agree that all of the ordinances are set in stone and they should never be changed because conditions change. People have different reasons for doing different things, and at one time they may make sense, and for the down the road, that's what we do as a city. Come together, we talk about the ideas we have, and what works best for us all together. So I don't know that I can really support the argument that we're just changing all the time, so we're changing all the time now anyway.
To the point they just told you, it was changed from 5 to 7 to 6 to 10, what is it now?
Right.
So
it's
that's changing.
it's changing all the time.
So we as residents, do we say they're just temporary, the ordinances?
Well, let me interject here, where you said when circumstances change, nothing has changed since they passed it to 8.
Yeah,
Nothing.
nothing's,
Except for your request.
nothing changed, that's right, but nothing changed until someone puts it, goes from less than 10 to 10, or from 10 to 8. It was just someone who wanted to change for what they felt like was the best for the city, that's why they made an ordinance, but that's what we do. It's the
But I
process.
think you're talking about a very few residents here who have pools or who are adjacent to pools. So I don't know why 5 feet is good for the city. 3 feet, I mean, you want a pool right here, 5 feet is bad, 8 feet I don't like, 10 feet. I mean, it's funny, because I was trying to do research to see what ordinances were. I've got one here, and it's really hard to research ordinances on the website. I've got one that says no accessory building or structure or group of such buildings.
Well, you don't want to.
Oh, you want me to go up there?
Yeah, if you don't mind, it's just easier.
I mean, I'm sure these are rescinded, but they're not rescinded on the website, so I was trying to research, and I can't. This is chapter 11 supplementary regulations, 10.11.16. No accessory building or structure, or group of such buildings or structures, including swimming pools, nor any parking space in any residential zone shall cover more than 25% of the required minimum rear yard space. Nobody's in that.
I know what that means.
Do you?
Yeah.
She's saying nobody's in compliance with that.
I've not seen anybody that build a pool that's in compliance with that. But maybe, I'm just saying, I don't even know if this is accurate. I've been trying to do research, and this is all the stuff we have done a lot of changing on swimming pools, obviously. But it says it shall not be less than 20 feet from a neighbor's dwelling or 15 feet from any side lot line of an adjacent vacant lot. 15 feet. It shall not be less than 15 feet from any neighbor's non-livable area of their dwelling, which includes but not limited to the garage, carport, or storage areas. That would be our front yard, I would assume. Then there's one that says,
What ordinance was that one?
that is 10, 11, 13, 1.
I'm gonna ask, do you have a design for your pool layout yet with all the landscaping around it and some sort of?
No, I just have to place it.
That anybody can respond to, if that makes sense? Like where your pool is going to be located?
I haven't got that far. I didn't want to get that far with that.
And then I
Right.
have worked on a project with the pool. One of the big concerns was the noise from the pool equipment, not the pool itself, but the noise from the pool equipment. And so to have kind of an enclosure where it's sort of sheltered so that it doesn't make a lot of noise. I guess
There is an ordinance that states that has to be.
maybe something to respond to might be a good idea as well, so that everybody sort of knows the design.
I think, yeah, but right now it's.
This is just an ordinance, I'm not applying for a specific permit from my.
Right, but I'm saying your neighbors, if they kind of knew the design of it, maybe something would change, so they can see exactly what the concept was.
Louise has the floor, it's not her finish shop.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was just pointing out, it's so hard to try to figure out what your ordinances are. And I will admit, I'm not real good at going through your ordinances because it took me hours to just read through everything. And I don't see where they're rescinded, so I don't know. I mean, the one on the book still says 10 feet, and obviously that hasn't changed to 8. I don't have the other one with me that talked about the continuous fence line, and it would be 20 feet. What? Anyway, I mean, we would like to come back in and request an ordinance to go back to 10, and probably will, so you'll see us again, but 5 feet, I don't know, 10, 5 feet or somewhere, that is all somebody's residence. And I guess I've looked through all my life and I need to see changes, but I can understand some. I don't understand when you don't have a lot that is peculiar in any way. It's just a nice square lot. So you don't need to change or variance or change the ordinance. It's there, you know it's there. It doesn't require some odd block to shape a pool. It won't fit on your side yards. And in my opinion, it won't fit in your backyard and still allow us some peace and enjoyment of our property. And I apologize. I think council members told me that you told them that we were willing to do a property line adjustment, which we are not, and you said you didn't do that, so
I did not.
that goes on record.
I want to talk a bit about that. Yes.
No, and that's okay, it's just, that's kind of what really fired me up, I thought, he's going to deal with that, and we'll fight.
Yeah.
No, I hate this.
I just think it's sad that we have to be here recording yesterday, and I know you're looking at the whole city, with this ordinance change, not just Tyler. But there is some problems with his lot based upon, and you can see those in the letter that we wrote with you. And so, depending on what the council does, then it kind of depends on what we're gonna go in and request ourselves, so. I think the consideration's there for him, and I can see where it's your obligation to look at everybody when they come in with a request, to look at that. I just don't think this is one that needs to be changed. There's nothing that's gonna stop, say Greg next to you going in for the same type of a thing. He could put the same swimming pool in and will be affected there also. Cause there's probably room there because ours is such a big lot. There's probably room for him to be able to do that. Do I think he's gonna do it? Probably not. But that situation could come up somewhere else in the city, not just where we live right now. So I think you guys need to address that all the way and look at that. I think ordinances are made. Your own ordinance says there's specific things that have to be met to change the ordinance. And I don't think you guys, we haven't looked at that right now. I don't think this meets it. So anyway, that's my, thanks for talking.
I guess another thing that really concerned me was I was reading the minutes when we were discussing this, and you were going out to other cities to see what they do. We are a unique city. Why are we trying to map ourselves after other cities? If you look at, I put it in my letter, Syracuse, what's happening there, Layton, Clearfield. If I come in, and you may do that, and there's a breeze on our property, it's an acre. What if we want to build homes right on the sidewalk? You can go look at other city ordinances and say, well, other cities do it, we'll let them do it. Why this ordinance? Why are we so focused on swimming pools that we can't just decide what we're gonna do and leave it alone? It's really difficult when you think you know what your property is, you know what your neighbors are allowed to do, and then they change it and change it and change it. And I don't know how many minutes I went back through and this swimming pool thing comes up continually. So I just hope that you will base your decision on our city, not others. I don't care what Kaysville or Layton or anybody else does. This is Sherwood Heights. And our council and planning commission ought to be doing what's best for our city. And if you talk 3 or 5 foot back, I don't know what this, the Heights subdivision is, but are they gonna start putting pools in that little teeny area? And if we subdivide and sell that property, what's that 3 or 5 foot gonna do to the people who build, depending on what you build? It just has ramifications, anyway, I'm around. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Pretty emotional about my property.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Kite and Mr. White. Any other comments? Do we close? Is that the proper? Okay. Any other comments on, for the public hearing before we close the public hearing?
More question.
Okay.
You said you know what that ordinance meant. Can you explain that?
Yeah, as soon as they turn it over to us, I'll
Okay.
I'll explain that.
Okay, thank
A
you.
motion that we go out of public hearing.
All in favor? Aye. So we'll close the, public hearing section of the meeting and, turn it over to planning commission and staff to discuss and review.
So, yeah. I'm curious what that might do.
Hand me that. Give me that. Let me read it. Okay, I'll go right here. So this is under supplementary regulations called maximum coverage of rear yard. So it says no accessory buildings or structure or group of such buildings or structures, including swimming pools, nor any parking space in any residential zone shall cover more than 25% of the required minimum rear yard space. The minimum rear yard space is from the property line towards your house, in this particular case, 25 feet. So in that 25-foot area, that setback area, you can't have a combination of any of these things that cover more than 25% of that area. So that's a shed, that's a swimming pool, it says parking spaces, any other such structures, it can't cover more than 25% of that. I don't know, we've never seen a site plan for what Tyler was talking about, so we have no idea if it meets that threshold or not. But that's what that means.
Thank you.
You know, when I'm up here, I'll just give the same commentary I kind of talked about before. And just a couple of things. First, to one of your comments, Darren and I both did research on this issue. And I don't like to change ordinances just to change them. I think there should be a good reason to do it. And I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, we changed the setback. We used to have a 30-foot front and rear setback in our 12,000-foot zone. We changed that to 25. And the reason we did it is that lot sizes were shrinking, homes were big and staying big, and we were constantly battling, fighting with people trying to fit their house on their lots. And it was just a constant battle. And so we reduced those to 25, and it gave people an extra 10 feet that they could fit a house on there. And those seem to be for the right reasons. And I think that was a good reason, and it's worked out pretty good. We haven't had a ton of complaints about it since we did that. It's not uncommon for a small city to go out and see what other surrounding cities are doing. It's a barometer. We use that as a barometer. Fruit Heights can do whatever it wants to do. They don't have to be like Kaysville and Farmington, but it's not uncommon for us when we do research. We like to see, okay, what are the cities around us doing? Are we somewhere in the same ballpark as what other cities are doing? It doesn't mean we have to be like them, but it's always good to see what other people are. We a mile away from them, or are we pretty close to what they're doing? And when Darren and I did our research, we found that the majority of cities on this issue, the swimming pool issue, are between 5 and 10 feet. We really couldn't find any smoking gun. We couldn't find any good reasons to do it. We couldn't find any good reasons not to do it. Here we are at 8 feet. Does it change the world to go to 5 feet? No. Is there a good reason to do it? No. Is there a good reason not to do it? Not really. This isn't something that the city dreamt up and said, let's change this again. We have a resident that applied for a zoning change. We have to address that. When that happens, we have to address it. I think this is the third time I can remember dealing with this particular issue, and I would like to put this to rest and not deal with it again for a good long while. But I have got no strong opinion about this thing one way or the other. About where this thing should be. We talked about the planning commission, the city council has talked about it. I think we just make a decision and move on. Any other questions that you guys might have for me?
I don't have any, I feel like we've talked about stuff like
I'm
that.
kind of thinking about this, but I'm with you, I don't, know why. Other than to talk with people and say, what is best, but when I think about it, I think of it in terms of if this pool fails, how will it affect the neighbors? That's kind of what I think about. I think noise is just, right, unless it's pool equipment, of course, but kids playing and basketball and things in the neighborhood, leaf blowers, that's just noise in the neighborhood. Yes, lighting, I guess you're right, there's tall lights, right, but people can have that with basketball courts and things they do in their backyard. But I think about it in terms of if that pool fails, if there is a sizing event, or if something happens and that pool fails, how will it affect the people around them? So I think in my mind, I'm not comfortable with 3 feet. I think if I was the minimum I'm comfortable with, the more I think about it, I think I'm a little bit more in favor of 10.
If I remember, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we went to 10 because people were complaining about noise. And they thought that 10 feet give them a little extra space and it wouldn't be as noisy. Or water splashing out of their pool and going into their neighbor's yard. I remember that comment once, but I don't think we've got anything here to hang your hat on.
I think one of the other issues that, if I remember right, was some landscaping, making sure there could be other things to help block. And 5 feet, you don't have, you have your walk around the pool, and that's about it. And so I think that was part of going to the 10 feet.
So right, knowing that we were going to talk about this, I try to think beforehand. So where my home, right next door, I have a pickleball court in my neighbor's yard. It's in their front yard. It's in their front yard, and that's exactly right. That's what we hear, right? Multiple nights a week, we hear ping, 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 ping. They have stadium lights in their front yard, right? When I first went in, we're like, what is on? Like parking pad, RV pad? No, it's pickleball court. The other side, I've got the neighbor's driveway. Those neighbors, I'm guessing 10-ish feet from the fence, we have chickens. And back behind us, we butt up to Burton Elementary, so I got 500 plus kids in the backyard, right, all the time. And then the same home that has the pickleball court, I've got a 5 foot or so structural wall that's retaining their lot from, it's sloped, they chose to build up and fill, and so we've got this big wall. I think the light and the noise, I mean, you can put in a basketball court, right? You can have kids ride their bikes up and down the driveway. Personally, I don't think we can say it's a light and noise issue. There's lots of other, you could have a swing set, right, that's light and noise back there. It was mentioned earlier that lot sizes are shrinking, houses are bigger. I think pools, I would assume we've probably seen more pools go in. I think it's just gonna continue to increase, would be my guess. I could be wrong. But my concern would be, that it was mentioned that, we changed that setback because the city was tired of battling these requests, right? I think we're gonna continue to see this, would be my assumption. I don't know. And then, I heard the city council member that recently said that they lean towards not restricting what people can do on their property. I grew up, I think I've shared this before, but I grew up in a home that had a pool, and it was, I think, 3 feet or less from the swimming pool to the back wall. You had to step over the diving board, like you couldn't physically walk around, it was locked. And back behind there was a building, so it was a retaining wall that held up the backyard. I'm sure we were noisy, to the neighbors at some point, we were kids. But I think kids can be, I brought a tape measure to try to, right, visually, I'm like, hey, what is 3 feet, what does 5 feet look like? I agree, 3 feet, right, from the front here, that's about 3 feet. It looks like. This is 5 feet. This is 8 feet.
That's
Yeah.
a good tape measure, it'll stretch.
I know, I say, I don't know if I get 10.
Don't go more than 10.
I don't, it's, okay, that's 10.
That's why it's in Milwaukee.
Yeah, okay. 10 to me is quite a bit. I mean, it'd be great, right? I think 8, same thing, quite a bit. I mean, I have people playing pickleball closer than that to my backyard, my front yard. Actually, when we moved in, the neighbor asked,
that noise?
well,
Another body.
at this point it doesn't. When we first moved in, the neighbor actually, the first time, he's like, hey, would you mind taking out these trees and putting grandstands up for our pickleball? He was joking, right? But he's a great neighbor. They're great neighbors. And so, I personally wouldn't have an issue with 5 feet. I think 5 feet is sufficient. I think for the liability standpoint, for failure, that's certainly, I think there's legal things that can, right, take that risk. If something does fail, that insurance will help, and I think there's just a responsibility there that from a legal standpoint, they have to mitigate, to clean up anything if it were to happen. I would assume that we're gonna keep having these requests. I would be comfortable at 5 feet. I'll caveat that. Currently, I live on the west side of 89, used to live on the east side here. We had a pretty major change in our neighborhood that the city approved that we didn't know about until after construction was going in. We hated it. 100% felt like it wasn't the best for our neighborhood. The city felt like it was the best for the city. I was upset about it for quite a while. But you know what? We just decided, if that's what's best for the city, that's what's best for the city.
Comment. What about the existing, the ordinances and the covenants are there for the subdivisions that are there now? If you approve new subdivisions in the future, you look at changing that to 5 feet in the future, because then the residents that are living around that know exactly what they're getting. Instead of changing that in the middle of the street. That's my point.
Yeah, and we have that, I think, discussion quite a bit, right?
And one thing that Jeff told me from right, the city does not enforce subdivision covenants, right?
No,
They approve.
we don't even approve.
I mean, I think that's.
Somebody approved that subdivision.
Well, we approve the subdivision, not the covenants. If you got covenants that are specific to your development, the city doesn't approve those. That's the developer of the property.
So
And we don't enforce those.
you're saying that if somebody wanted to go in with covenants that put pigs and horses in a 10-foot square thing in the backyard, you wouldn't disapprove that?
If your CCNR say that all the houses in your subdivision have to be blue, the city doesn't care.
But you would take it into consideration before approving that subdivision.
I'll tell you, a lot of times, we don't know what those covenants and restrictions even are. Sometimes we
You
do.
have to submit them with your plans to subdivision.
Yeah. We do, and the only time we get involved in those CCNRs is if there is, if the homeowners association is maintaining parts of, or responsible for parts of the subdivision, like maintaining open space, for instance, We have to know about that because we have to know who's taking care of this. But things like what you're talking about right here, whether or not you can have if your CCNR say swimming pools are not allowed, that's up to you guys as a group of homeowners to defend, not the city.
Okay, so.
We allow swimming pools anywhere in the city.
But I guess that's my point, is that they knew exactly what the CCR was, what the.
I agree with that.
The city ordinance was when they built that.
Anybody that bought in that would have been handed those and should have known what they said. Now, does
And
the
not
CCNR,
just the CCNR.
does the CCNR say something about pools?
Yeah, it just talks about this. Well, I don't know if you would talk.
They change their mind, even if they move in, they knew what the ordinance was, and they didn't want to move the time they bought it. They would say, oh, now I want to move outside of the work.
You can change your mind, but you have to mind on a lot of things, what about the existing residents that counted on those things to begin with?
So I'm not gonna like you, not like I moved in.
I'm talking about all the existing residents around that subdivision, and not just me, everybody.
No, well, I wanna go
That's
to
why
five
we-
point, your 5 feet, is this for the whites or is this for the entire city, you think is best?
If you think that we can change that now for everywhere, not for future.
That would be my, hypothesis.
What I'm saying is, if they approve new subdivisions or new, then put that setback at 5 foot rule into them, ordinance into those.
I believe the way the law works on this is any pool construction has to fall within the pool ordinance that I expect.
Yeah.
So,
So you wouldn't deal with the CCRs when you approve the new subdivision, it would have to fall, it's gotta be citywide, it couldn't be for just that.
yeah, for us, it's citywide. And I can, that's Jeff is right on the CCNRs. When we built in our subdivision, there was a restriction that every house should have a full basement. Well, builder came in and bought most of the lots, and he only wanted to do half basements in some of the houses. And we rectified it, and he had more votes than all the rest of us put together because he owned more lots. And so
You know,
it is up to the subdivision to enforce that, and it can be expensive to take that to court.
Well, the one issue, I guess, with these two properties is when we established the Green Farm Estates and worked with the developers, we limited it to one-story homes on adjacent properties. Well, the ground sloped so much that the homes, Mr. White's and across our fence, have a full basement that sits out. So then you have the patio and the deck, and you're fully entitled to do that. But before
It's
you.
three homes.
Huh? Yeah.
It's three homes.
It is, yeah, the 3 homes. Before you and we planted trees, I could hear every conversation you had on your deck. Your lights shone down into my driveway and my front window. The trees are wonderful. They block out the noise, they block out the light. And it's because we sit down so low in this old one-story home and they sit up so high that no matter what light you have on, without those trees, the noise, I mean, I would listen to your phone conversation, not that I wanted to, but if I was out in my yard, I heard everything you said. And the kids out talking. And so if you take the trees down, it is going to be a noise issue. A huge noise and lighting issue.
So, just out of curiosity, does the CCNR say something about swimming pools?
Very, very little. I don't think it says anything about setbacks. I've got so much crap that I researched.
But it says something about, specific building standards coverage. And it's more, these slopes.
Oh, pool spas. Pool spas, game courts, and batting cages shall be located so as to avoid unreasonably impacting adjacent properties with falls, light, or sound. Pool heaters and pumps must be screened from view from the street.
Yeah. Nothing about setbacks.
No,
None of that has any objective enforceability except for the screening from the street.
So I just said, to keep keep us moving.
Okay, yeah.
With the three of us here, in order to make a recommendation, we have to be alone. Because there's only three of us here tonight, so, any thoughts on? Again, I'm fine with making that recommendation to the city council, 5 feet. Is there any concern or any other recommendation? Discuss.
So we've already shared a little bit about your thoughts. I'm struggling because this is a good point changing this ordinance. We go up and down, up and down. I think that's a reflection on us as a city and planning commission. We really should do as much research as we can, you know, really where we are when we make a decision. Those should be, they really should be more permanent. You know, Jeff gave a great example of why we changed the setback on the frontage. But these, we should really be careful not to make another change. And I think we're handicapped tonight because the individual with the most history on this is not here. So I'm torn. 5 feet, okay. Last time, 5 feet sounded good, but then again, we're going up and down, and we also didn't have the. I read the letter. I thought
Thank you.
they had some good points in there about what we change, and our ordinance is there to protect. We do need to change it from time to time, and so that lot, you know, you got two sides. Looks like that is city lots are being smaller. So it kind of goes back and forth. And water is a sure commodity too.
I mean, someone wondered too, and I think this is probably a very broad question, but what are the public utility uses? And is there an average around here of what they can be? Because, you know, I know our property has a back public utility easement on it, and so if you know, that I can't remember if it's 5 or 10 feet, but, you know.
I don't know, you know,
It's 5 feet.
there is a 5-foot utility easement on your rear yard.
How common is that, you know, are they larger?
You can see the front. It's by ordinance, and usually on one foot.
Most utilities, most utilities are located in front of properties now, almost everything. Power, gas, water, sewer, everything, almost everything. And so it's not as common to have rear public easements. Traditionally, they were for like cable TV and things, and cable TV is also taken past now, right? But occasionally you'll see that, but mostly you'll see public utilities at the front of lots. I will tell you this much, that if there is a public utility easement, you would be wise not to build it. Because if any public utility, something we're not even thinking of in this day and age, comes in the future, they can just go right in there and they can destroy whatever you've got in that public utility easement and that is on your dime. I would not want to be having to move my pool out of a public, I would strongly suggest that don't put a pool in a public utility. It's just a bad idea. Because it's not likely, but it could have to be moved. And it would be on homeowner's dime.
Can I just ask you a question? When you said it's prudent to go out to other cities and see what they're doing, I can understand that, but if you do it with one ordinance, if we come in to subdivide our piece of property, will you consider an ordinance to build high-rise right along our sidewalk?
I don't know.
Hey, we'll find out. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you go to other cities and that's what they're doing, and I hate to see it done, but you know what, if they're doing it and you're looking at other cities, why not me? I can make a lot more money out of it.
We just mainly do it as a barometer, but it doesn't mean we follow what other cities do. But you find in a regional area that cities tend to do the same kinds of things. I don't see us putting high rises. in the
I
city.
hope not. Not when you drive through Davis County, I hope not.
Who knows what the laws are gonna be.
One more issue that you guys maybe need to look at too, as far as changing that ordinance is, a lot of it's city residents, they're not gonna come to the meeting, they're not gonna get involved until it's in their backyard. That's when you're gonna hear about it, yeah, I'm sure you guys know that, so. That's something to probably need to consider, I guess, there's also some code violations on that lot already. We're gonna have to address if this gets approved. It's in the letter, there, so we'll have to look at that, line of sight, some of that stuff.
Well, the other issue, I actually tried to get 5 of my friends to come because they're concerned about the ordinances going back and forth. Their comment to me is, why waste my time? They do what they want to do. And that's sad when your residents have them about your council and your planning commission. Really sad. You know, with the cemetery, you went out and you did a public survey. Do that. Find out what people want instead of just saying, we think 5 is okay. I don't. You have the power, I don't. And it's really frustrating.
Let me make a quick comment about that, and I'm shutting up for the rest of the
Me too.
What is going on tonight, this is just an important lesson. What is going on tonight is called the legislative process. If you change an ordinance, you are changing the law. And we are required to have a public hearing, and this is when people come and speak, and the legislative action. If we were approving a subdivision, that's an administrative action. If they follow the requirements of our city zoning code, it has to be approved, it can't be denied. And that's where that comment comes from, the city does whatever it wants. That's coming from somebody that doesn't understand. There are some things the city has no choice on whether they do or not. They are forced to do it if they meet those standards. That is not what is in play tonight. This is a legislative action, and that's where the public comment comes in.
Well, and I agree, and I'll tell you, Darren has been so good, he has an open door policy, and I appreciate that more than y'all can know, and everybody's listened to us and read our letters, and I really do appreciate all the work you do. I can't think of a worse job than working for a small city, I can't. Because we all have such feelings, you got the new people moving in, you've got us oldies that lived here our entire lives. You know, when we built our first home, the setback was 90 feet from the road, we needed binoculars. That's how much it's changed. Yes, anyway, thank you for listening.
We appreciate everyone's
Pretty emotional.
comments.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we need to make a decision, and then I think we can vote on this and we can say yes or no. That's 2 options. Or we can wait till we have a full forum.
That's sort of like here, did we talk about the history before of how it all evolved? Why there were so many changes? You were saying that Kevin maybe had some more insight into it.
That's what the city was saying.
So, I know the first time, when it changed to the 10 feet, it had to do with some of the slopes, had to do with the corner lots where, the pool was on the side lot right next to the neighbors. They still had their 20 feet, but it was like right next to it because it was a side lot. And as I went through the planning commission process, I believe the recommendation was 8 feet, at that time. Went to the council, once again, at the council meeting, there was a lot of discussion about it. And the council come back and said, you know what, we're not gonna have a lot of different numbers, because you have different slope settings and all that. It's gonna be 10 feet, which would make it from no matter what yard, so if you're next to an R1A and you were big enough, you would still be away from the house as far, and so they just said 10 feet from the interior property line. And then again, when this last time, there was a couple of individuals who come in who, one of it's smaller, they talked to the council, council said, well, that's a planning commission thing. It went to the planning commission again. It went back and forth with the planning commission. Actually, 5 feet was talked about, and then back to the 8 feet. It did, it went back and forth, once again for,
Yeah, correct.
quite a time, and finally, the planning commission just agreed to go with the 8. And then went back to the council accepted the 8 feet at that time.
And a few months back, we didn't send a recommendation, but the planning commission basically punted to the city council and said, what's your direction, right? We're debating between 3 to 5 to 8, and
And I took that to the city council. I said, is that something that the city council even wants to look at again? There was a little bit of discussion about it, and they said that that's the planning commission. If they want to send it, we'll look at it. And so I brought it back to the planning commission and said, they'll look at it. I don't think any of the council members would be willing to go any less than 5. And I would say my aspect of it was probably 50-50 on switching from 8. I don't know. They didn't really throw it out. They just said, let the planning commission do their job, and we'll decide if it comes back. Doesn't come back, then we know. So it's kind of the planning commission shoes at the moment.
Can I just make one quick comment? I promise this will be my last. You're talking 3, 5, 8 plus 10. To me, it appears the 5 is a compromise for those who want a pool. It's not a compromise for those of us who want some privacy and enjoyment of our backyard. And I don't know how you balance that, but I think you're shortchanging a lot of people in the city because you've got smaller lots that will be even more impacted than we are if you do what you're
like I said, I'm good with sending a recommendation at 5 feet. That would be where I'm comfortable.
Something Darren said kind of has pushed my mind a little bit too, when he said dealing with slopes, right, where the property line is somewhat downhill. 3 feet is not enough, 5 feet may not be enough, right? And so maybe that 8 was, I'm trying to figure in my mind what is the reasoning behind it, right? And there is a lot of information out there. But if there is somewhat of this downward slope, then I tend to, and I hate to say this because I do understand a person's right to want to build or want to do it a property, but having the larger setback starts to make a little bit more sense. If you have a nice, square flat piece of property, 5 is probably a compromise, I would agree, but if there's any slope, and there seems to be a lot of slope around here, I'm tending to lean towards the larger setback.
Authorized 8.
Jeez.
Well, if you go 1, 5, 1 and 8, it takes 3. I would motion we table it until we have.
Do you mind guessing your opinion? Like, what are you leaning towards?
I've walked along this back slope.
Yeah.
In this particular situation, when the Whites bought their property, we were at 5. If I'm not mistaken.
I'm trying to find out what we were. I have not found ordinance that said what we were at that time.
It appears as if there's truly a problem, because it keeps going back and forth. So let's make a compromise, but then there's an issue, you go back, and then there's another compromise, and then you go back, right?
But the easement thing is of concern for me, because 5 feet, any contractor that digs in the 5 foot space is gonna that's something I've never thought of. So I could go either way. If you want to agree on something, I'm for it.
Well, I don't, it sounds like we're not gonna make any headway tonight, so I think we just need the table and discuss.
Do we need a motion to table it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to table it.
No, second. No, agree.
Okay,
So I understand what you just did, you table it, you're gonna wait till you get a full quorum, is that what you're saying?
So we have a quorum, we'll just wait until there's more commissioners to discuss.
So,
There's more commissioners to discuss.
we have a forum, but we don't have quite a full forum.
which.
So there's two individuals that aren't here tonight. The chair is not here tonight, and I knew he wasn't gonna be here, when we planned this. There was another commissioner that, canceled this week. She wouldn't be able to make it. So if you don't have it, you have to have 100%. So you'd have, all three have to have the same agreement, or it's a failed vote. So
Okay, now, one of the things I need to understand, the planning commission, whichever way they vote, when you get a full quorum, that is pushed onto the council. The legislative body, the council, would then adopt it or reject it.
Correct.
Okay.
So what that does is the planning commission goes through the process, they make a recommendation, and their recommendation could be, yes, we recommend that you split to 5, it could be a recommendation to leave it. That then goes to the council. The council doesn't have a public hearing at that point, because this is a public hearing process. The council has that discussion, there are legislative body that's been voted in. Then they would talk and they could say, you know what, we move to 10, we can leave it at 8, or we can go with 5, whatever recommendations. So that does fall back onto the actual council at that point. They look to the planning commission for a lot of the research on this portion of it and what the public's expecting, and that's why they usually take the recommendation of what the planning commission is presenting.
Thank you.
We do appreciate your research. I tried to research this a lot, and there is so much information out there and across the country in areas.
Just Fruit Heights City is really difficult when they navigate through all of your ordinances and they're not in any order, and then all of a sudden you find a .1. Well, does that replace the one that wasn't a point? Nothing's rescinded, so I don't know what's accurate, what isn't, but I'm glad we're down to 25% because I think that's a huge ordinance for especially these smaller lots. So anyway, I said I wouldn't speak and I don't shut up.
Okay, thank everybody. We'll move on to, I don't believe we have any tabled items, correct? I don't believe we have any commissioner staff reports.
I do. I just want to let the planning commission know that myself and the mayor we went down and met with Senate President Adams, and we talked about the modern income housing for Fruit Heights. We're just over 35 acres left in Fruit Heights to develop. For us to hit what is required, we got our letter back. We're going through that right now. Actually, Jeff is going through it because we failed.
We're not in compliance.
We're not in compliance. So we're going through that process right now, and Jeff's going through that to fill that out. But I've spoken with, since that meeting, I've spoken with President Adams' chief of staff, and I've also this last Friday spent an hour with his policy writer about how a city like Fruit Heights can be able to comply. And so once we get this report done, I will meet with them again and start that process of trying to get some laws done for I see it. With the law that they created, that they didn't understand, it would affect communities like Fernette. And we're not the only community, but there's other communities around that are built out just as much as us
Yeah.
that cannot hit requirements, and they didn't look at that portion, and they admitted to it.
So they admitted to that?
Yeah, he said, we didn't realize it would affect some of the smaller cities like it is. And I will tell you something, when we said we were waiting for, we just got a letter back from Workforce Services, and that's who, this report goes to, and they didn't know that's what the report went.
Yeah. Okay,
Can I just add one more question? Is a pool considered, like a shed or a built-in environment?
It's an accessory
It
building.
is an accessory building.
It's killed an accessory structure. It's not a building, it's a structure.
So, I know that generally, you can only make 70 of lots, is that correct?
Yeah, no more than 25%. And the reason for that is that, the reasoning behind that is that you're supposed to contain all of your water on your property. Well, if you don't have any impervious surface for water to sink into the ground, it all runs off on your neighbors. So that's generally the reason behind that, but we can do all of this and then find out that he violates that part of it, and still wouldn't be able to build a pool.
So it isn't just.
I don't know that today.
The best, well. So
That's something we would look at the building permit stage. He applies for a building permit, put in a pool, and we look at that. So we don't know that today.
So these, I think, these small lots, maybe let's say they get the setback, right, but then they'll still overbuild their lot trying to create this pool that fills the rest of the backyard. And so I think looking at it, what is the best thing to do, even more so than this individual situation? I understand. That is something to consider with small lots, right? It'll be overbuilt anyway, the pool, and so, you know.
but I would say non-directing where they have to, I would be more open to, right? We got one law that says 25%, let them put it, they don't put it.
Well, this, he does have a very small backyard.
I mean, the same thing could be said in different dwelling or like sheds being used in trade houses and different things, right? So.
Yeah, I would say, right, we're just talking about pools. There's all sorts of other similar things, and so we're gonna look at every single one and say, no, you can't put that basketball there. No, you can't put whatever, there. It just becomes, I think, a slippery slope.
I guess I don't look at a pool the same as I look at like built a shed, something that's 3D above the ground line, right? And somebody wants to build right against your property line with something that is three-dimensional.
Or like, on the way over here, I was looking, just watching the neighborhood, right? There was two very large campers right up against the property line that are gonna block people's views. Right, there's two lots that had large boats in their driveway that are gonna block views. So it's just, I don't know, to me it seems like we're kind of picking and choosing, and I just.
But the one thing about pools is spelled out in our ordinance. You do have to follow the ordinances. And so, and sheds and pools are listed. So, I think Jeff's right, it could be more than one. Which would eliminate, and this. If that's the case, these small lots, we're not gonna have pool issues, folks. Because they will use more than half the lots for a pool. So a couple other things, when we passed the chicken ordinance, we didn't look at the RS-12. And the RS-12 talks about having chickens when you hit to 20,000 square foot.
So I would be putting something together
Okay.
to fix that portion of the RS-12.
Okay. We don't have to have a public hearing on that, do we?
Yes, it's a change to the RS 12 zone.
Oh.
Explain to me what.
So in RS 12, according to the county ordinance, you have to have a minimum of 20,000 square feet.
Isn't,
You mean the city ordinance or
The
the
county ordinance for RS 12.
Is this animal control?
It's on the county website.
How does that affect the city?
Well,
Because we didn't have an ordinance for that one.
our city ordinance says that.
Your city ordinance has to say that.
Yeah, I think it says.
We probably-
follow the counties.
It says that.
And so now,
so, sorry, can you summarize that? I missed. What were we talking about? What, so we're changing, we specifically talked about not changing RS 12, the chicken ordinance.
So RS 12 is allowed to have chickens, but I believe it states in there, I was reading something, I believe it states, as far as the animals, it follows the county's ordinance on animals. The county states in that the minimum size has to be 20,000 square feet
For a lot.
before you can start having chickens and other animals.
So do we have to change, or does the ordinance currently say you follow city, but you also follow county?
Here's what our ordinance says. This is 10-8-8-9. Farm animals, for each 20,000 square feet of land, the following number of types of animals are permitted. Down, sheep, what, and it says 24 small fowl, chickens, pheasants, pigeons.
Is that right in the RS 12?
Yes. Yeah, this is the RS 12.
Okay,
So,
so go back to that, I want to see what that said again.
like that.
Yeah,
So if we don't have 20,000 square feet, we don't have something that addresses that.
yeah, you're right.
Could we change the ordinance, we just put in and say, we include RS 12 up to 20,000 square feet?
So basically, all we have to do is say that we also have to follow county code. Is that it?
So
I don't see that county code piece you're talking about.
that's what the county's code is, exact right there, what it says.
But,
It says.
but it's written in our code, so we follow our code.
Our code,
County's
yeah.
code.
But that's where that came from, is the county.
Okay,
So that's how they adopted it.
They adopted what the county wrote down. So if you're less than, on our one, RS 12, then you're really not supposed to have chickens if you're less than 20,000, according to that.
Right.
yeah, so I would agree with that if you don't have 20,000 square feet, you can't have chickens.
Yeah.
And we just passed another chicken ordinance that conflicts with that now.
We passed an ordinance in R110 and R112 saying you can't have chickens. As long as you're less than 10,000 square feet.
But now RS 12 still can't have them.
And
So
we might have to look at agricultural too. I haven't read all that one yet.
So are we saying we should amend this ordinance to reflect the same as the R112 and the R110?
That's what I would say.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Either one of them, we can do either one.
Yes, we do need an amendment to it.
So basically,
It's an easy amendment, I wish we didn't have to do a public hearing.
You do. Or you can just leave it.
And hopefully nobody said anything, we leave it and we just,
But how many people that live in RS 12 know
Nobody
that?
followed.
Probably no one.
how did we figure it out?
Yeah, how did this even come up?
because there are some people in the RS 12 zone that have just over 12,000 square foot lot that have chickens that are not in compliance. And it was brought up, and when we went through the process, I will tell you, I did not even account for that.
No.
I didn't either.
We actually talked about it in our planning commission, so, oh, that's not gonna affect that. And I could have looked at that time and I didn't, so I'm as guilty as anybody else.
Yeah, so it's just,
we don't have any ordinance that says that a county ordinance takes precedent over city?
well, that's a copy of the county's ordinance. If you go out and you look up through the county, that's what it says in theirs.
But don't confuse them, Darren.
Yeah,
We're not,
but this is our ordinance.
we
That's
don't
within
have
our
to
ordinance.
adhere to the county's ordinance. That's in our own ordinance.
Yeah,
So we don't have to adhere to county ordinance.
no, we don't. We write the.
He's just saying that it's similar to the county's ordinance.
It's very similar to what Howard County.
It's probably very easy to write how to have ordinance.
Yeah, but we don't have to adhere to it, is that what you're saying?
We don't have to adhere to the county's ordinance.
We have to.
We have to adhere to that. What he just read there, we have to adhere to.
Because that's
the
our
city's ordinance.
That's our city ordinance for those zones.
So,
So for the RS 12, so what's the discrepancy?
unbeknownst to us, until just right now, unbeknownst to me, in an RS-12 zone, you can't have chickens unless you have at least 20,000 square feet.
I got you.
And we just made an ordinance for,
So we just passed an ordinance that allows for chickens in an R112 and an R110
at 10,000 square feet.
at 10,000 square feet, but this one says 20.
So you
And
just
so-
update this to say 10, is that what we're thinking?
Yes.
Yes,
We're
so
making
that
it
they're
easier.
all, it's even across the board.
Right, go the way.
Yeah.
But I think we still need the stipulation on how many, because less than 20,000. Because,
Yeah, we'd have to fix that too.
yeah. Yeah,
We want it to be the
don't
same, we want to be the same as the other ones. So
Right,
you don't have two different things going on.
right. So, okay.
I wish we'd have never touched that chicken thing.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
This is about, has been a headache for us, it's taken a long time.
And we probably haven't heard the last chickens. They have a way of just coming back.
They do. We also talked about doing an open house, and talk about our
The R16,
R6 areas. What's our thought on that, or we wanna wait until we hear back from the state?
I think that would be our, in the springtime, we'll start going through that process. I have Children's Associates gonna put some maps together, just showing some of the areas. I really need to make sure the buy-in is from the planning commission and also the council, and then we would do a work session, and then we would possibly, because this has to be with the general plan, through that process, and then we'd have public hearings. So,
So we're looking after the first of the year.
yeah, first of the year, we'll start that whole process.
I don't want to forget about that, but it would be nice to see if the state does make some exceptions. I'll be surprised if they do. But
It would be nice if we could say, hey, we're still working on this.
if they don't make any exceptions, this is the only other thing that we can possibly do as a city, is identify, that we said that we were gonna work on, is identify areas in the city that could be considered for higher density. It's the only other thing that we have not accomplished. It's the only other thing we have any hope of accomplishing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good stuff. Are we good?
Okay.
For motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
And thanks for pointing that out, Clark. I didn't even know that RS-12 said that.
I should have.
I did.
You're hiding that from
You were both-
Well,
Motion to adjourn.
I got a motion to adjourn, second. I agree. Adjourn, make some more. Thank you.
What's your feeling on this?